It has been a little while since we've looked at any wireless earbuds from one of the MVPs of affordable, really good earbuds, Soundpeats. And today we're going to end that. We're going to be taking a look at a couple of earbuds from them that are called the Soundpeats Opera. Now, there's the Opera 3 and the Opera 5. We do have both of them here, and I've actually been testing both of them for a few weeks now, and I have some thoughts to share. Before we go any further, though, we're going to do a quick unboxing. The unboxing experience is exactly the same on both, so we're going to unbox the Opera 3 first, talk about them, transition to the 5, and then compare and contrast. We're also going to look at a lot of information that they have on their website, because this is actually going into Kickstarter pre-order today, January the 11th, so we have to take a look at that as well. Let's jump to that overhead camera really quickly, and we will do this unboxing experience. Here we have the Soundpeats Opera 03. You can see down there at the bottom. On the back here, you can see active noise cancellation, hybrid dual driver, 33 hours of playtime when that's combined with the buds and the charging case itself. Some specs here on the side, if we can get our focus back here. 10-meter maximum working distance, playtime about 9 hours. Like I said, 33 with everything, case combined. 40 milliamp hour for the buds, 300 milliamp hours for the charging case, 20 to 40 hertz response range. All this does sound pretty normal. And, if you're not super familiar with the Soundpeats brand, you might not know what to expect, but I've used a ton of their buds, and they always punch so far above their weight class, it's not even funny. So let's pop these things out, and what we have here is, looks like your ear tips are kind of squeezed inside this piece of cardboard. We have a USB-A to C cable, and then the buds themselves in there. Let's pop that out. And then there's some documentation in here as well. As for the buds themselves, they come in this case, which does not appear to be something that's going to collect any fingerprints. It's kind of a matte finish. We kind of have like a rose gold band going around it. And there's actually a little bit of text on it that says, "Know your imagination." I might be able to show you this if we get just the right lighting. There you can see that there. "Know your imagination," and nice little cursive writing. I think overall it looks fine. It's not particularly large. On the back side here, USB-C charging, Soundpeats in the back, more in that rose gold finish. Let's pop the thing open now, and you can get a look at the buds themselves. An interesting touch here, these are not dirty. This is just sort of a texture that is on the buds on the inside here. The buds themselves also carry that rose gold color. Now, this is a place that I had my first issue with these. This is maybe a pet peeve of mine. Maybe you will share this as well, but it's hard to say. You'll have to just kind of decide how important this is to you. I'm a big nitpicker when it comes to how hard or easy it is to take the earbuds out of the case. And these are some of the most difficult earbuds I have ever used to get out of the case. You can't really get a hold of them all that well. They're kind of slippery. And they're in there really well. So getting them out, you have to really pinch hard. And you can see there, if I squeeze too hard, they're just going to slip out of my hands and go flying. They're not easy at all to get out of this charging case. Now, you would think maybe, what if I push them to the side? You can push them to the side really hard, and then eventually they're just going to go flying. I don't know the right way to get these things out. If you approach from this side, you can kind of tip them, but again, it's like they catch on something and they don't want to come out. So I kind of, what I've wound up doing is I'll kind of tilt them a little bit like that, and then I'll try to pinch and lift. But you have to be very deliberate about this. And when you compare this to other earbuds, like something from Samsung, they come out so much easier. It's just a totally different experience. So again, maybe you'll think I'm nitpicking, but for me, this is a problem because I'm out and about, I'm walking around, I'm walking into a store, I want to put my earbuds in, and I'm fiddling with these things, trying to get them out of the container, and I can't get them out, and it's just frustrating. So that's probably my first nitpick about them. Let's see if I can actually get them out now. We'll take a look at the bud itself. I do think that they are rather aesthetically pleasing, but they are quite large, and I'll show you what they look like in my ear here in a moment, because this bit here is very deep. Of course, this is a touch-sensitive area, which my phone's probably going to start freaking out over there in the corner. They do fit relatively well, but I do feel like they stick out really far. Let's take a look at that now. If I put this earbud in and I kind of show you here, look how far that sticks out from my ear. Like that's a honking earbud right there. And again, I can compare this to something like the Buds 2 Pro from Samsung. Let's pop this in my ear. Which one is easier to spot, right? Like one of these is sticking way out and the other one is much more flush to the side of my head. So those are the two things there, which you may say, Shane, that's kind of a little bit back and forth because you want them to be easier to get out of the case, but you also want them to be smaller. Well, make the case different. Do something to make that easier to get out of the case and also make them a little bit lower profile. But I would say that the appearance and all this stuff really is for me not the most important thing. If they don't sound good, none of that stuff really matters anyways. The appearance, the case, none of that stuff matters if they don't actually sound good. And I can report to you something quite good. These do sound very, very good. Now, I do want to show you the Opera 5s really quickly before we jump over to their webpage and look at some more of this information, some pricing. And you may be thinking, oh yeah, show me the Opera 5s. Well, I am. They look effectively identical, except that the Opera 3s have rose gold, whereas these are just a normal gold color. If you open them up, same thing there. They're gold instead of rose gold. They're also so shiny that my camera has a really hard time focusing on them. But yeah, these are the 5s. They look identical. The buds are identical, just a different color profile, but there is something different about them on the inside. So this is their Kickstarter page, which it says coming soon because I'm recording this before it's actually going to launch. But they have another web page here that will kind of go into a bit more detail about these things. January 11th, which should be today when you're watching this. This should all be live. Now, my understanding of the difference between the Opera 3 and the Opera 5 is that the Opera 5 has dual balanced armature drivers. I believe that's what we're looking at down here. I am not like an engineer when it comes to earbuds, but apparently that is the difference. This is supposed to make them sound a little bit better than the Opera 3. So they're identical, but the 5s look a little different, and they should sound a little bit better than the 3s. And in my testing, that appears to be the case. Now, with that difference in audio quality, you're looking at the super early bird price for the Opera 3 being $49, which I'll tell you straight away, spoiler alert, they're worth $49. The retail price will be $79, which at that price, I think they're probably still a decent enough choice. At $49, that's a killer deal. For the Opera 5, the super early bird price is $69 and the retail price is $99. And I think that that's about where they should be in terms of the gap between them based on that difference in audio quality. So let's talk about that audio quality for a moment. Let me give you my mechanism, my methodology for testing these things and comparing, contrasting how they sound. This is what I do because these are the best sounding earbuds that I have, the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. They sound absolutely phenomenal, so I'm using them as my baseline for what a 10 out of 10 would represent to me, right? They're the best thing I have. I think they sound phenomenal. So I compare them to that. So what I did is I sat down, I put in my Buds 2 Pro, I played a little bit of a song. I swapped to the Opera 3, played a little bit of the song, back to the Buds. And by the way, I'm taking notes the entire time. Back to the Buds 2 Pro, and then to the Opera 5. Taking notes and comparing and contrasting each of those as I go forward. And here is what I determined. And we'll do this a bit differently than I normally do. Maybe you'll find this interesting. These are the songs that I tested it with. Dead Inside, which is a song by Muse. It's very dynamic. There's a lot of bass. There's a heavy drum in there. There's some cool stuff going on. I thought it was a great song to test out. So using my Buds 2 Pro, I felt like it was overall a great mix. Punchy bass, not too strong, just a really nice sound. On the Opera 3, solid bass. Now, the bass on the Opera 3 was much heavier than it was on the Buds 2 Pro. That bass, as I wrote there in all caps, was hitting hard, but it was a bit mushy. It didn't have that crispness that the Buds 2 Pro had. On the Opera 5, the bass was more defined, still strong, still stronger than the Buds 2 Pro, but it was better defined, it was a little bit more crisp, and they felt more similar to the Buds 2 Pro. So in this instance, the Buds 2 Pro sounded the best, the Opera 5 was right below them, and the Opera 3 was somewhere below that. That lines up with what we're seeing with the pricing and with what they're telling us. Love Is Only a Feeling, that is a song by The Darkness, another great song, really big guitar sound, really crisp, crunchy guitar, but it's got some highs that were a really good differentiating factor. In the Buds 2 Pros, the mids are defined, it was well balanced, the high end is light and fluttering, exactly what you would want it to be. On the Opera 3, that bass was still hitting all caps hard. It is a very bass heavy set of earbuds, but I thought it sounded good. The high end wasn't as crisp as it was on the Buds 2 Pro. It almost had sort of a hissing nature to it in that really high end. On the Opera 5, Again, this was more similar to the Buds 2 Pro on bass. The high end, like I said, has a bit of a hiss quality, but was more crisp than the Opera 3, almost too crisp, if that makes any sense. Let me just correct my typo there in my notes that I just noticed that I made 2 times. Teenage Dirtbag, of course, it was all over social media there for a while, and it was a song that I have always really enjoyed. There's a lot of interesting things going on there as well. The intro with that acoustic guitar, the chorus hits really hard, lots, really big wide sound. On the Buds 2 Pro, you know the story. It's balanced, it's punchy, it's great. On the Opera 3, the intro was kicking really hard because it's got, there's a nice bump to it in that intro. I thought that this song sounded overall really good on the Opera 3's. Chorus sounds absolutely huge, but not quite as detailed on the Opera 5. If the Buds 2 are a 10, these are like a 9-ish. My Liberty 4s, for comparison, were probably like a 9.5, because I actually busted them out for this last song because I thought the Opera 5 sounded so close. I wanted to see if the Liberties were somewhere in between, and I think that they probably were. So overall, when you consider, that I'm comparing these to a set of earbuds that I think are my current 10 in terms of sound quality, but they're also many times more expensive than these things, I think that they hung in there really well. We're comparing a $50 set of earbuds to something that was, $200 or around $200. That's pretty impressive that they're even hanging in there, and they actually did a pretty good job. Now, it's also worth pointing out that there is an app for these things for all Soundpeats earbuds, and ignore the fact that they're like kind of overlapping. I'm running this on my Surface Duo 2, and the screen is short, and some apps don't like that. But there is an app you can see shows the battery percentage. There are firmware updates available, and for all of this, you can do a custom equalizer or the Soundpeats Classic. Now, I tested this initially with my own custom equalizer, but I played with a lot of them. But there's a lot you can do. You can actually change the noise reduction, ANC transparent, do all this from this app as well. This is something that a lot of the cheaper earbuds, a lot of budget buds do not have an app, and in particular, if they do have an app, it's not going to be nearly as good as this with a fully tweakable and customizable equalizer. Good stuff by Soundpeats. Now, these buds do have both active noise cancellation and a pass-through mode. In terms of those two things, they're both solid. They're nothing incredible. They're not as good as something like what Samsung has. But again, for something that is a fraction of the price, the ANC is solid. If you're like me, you go into a crowded store and you want to be able to sonically block out the world, they're going to do that more than well enough. And if you turn on a song while you have ANC on, you're not going to be able to hear anything at all. And then with ANC turned off and the pass-through turned on, which is what I tend to do as I'm checking out if I might need to interact with somebody, you're going to be able to hear the people around you just fine. Like I said, not the best ANC and pass-through, but for the price, it's about as good as you could possibly expect these things to be. Guys, the link to this stuff, the Kickstarter and everything, will be in the description down below. Big shout out to Soundpeats, not just for sending these things out to me, but sending them out to me really early and giving me a long time to be able to test them. This was like 3 weeks I had to test these things and use them. Had one in my pocket for a while, the other in my pocket for a while. The experience is very similar, but the 5s do sound just that little bit better, and I think for the price, you're probably going to be fairly happy with either one of them. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button before you leave. I'll see you on the next one, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friend.